Good evening, everybody. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. All board members are present. Mr. Leach. Oh, I'm sorry. Except Mr. Leach. And moving on, Dr. Shirk had a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Rabinowitz. Tonight I would like to recognize one of our own who we lost in our community on Thursday, August 25th. Debbie Scott was hired as a substitute nurse in February of 2001. She was quickly named full-time support staff nurse in the district. She began the 2005 school year working 2 days a week at then St. Pius High School. Since that time, she has worked in every building as a part-time staff nurse. Debbie was very committed to her position and would often work extra hours, filling in anywhere she was needed. She courageously battled cancer, taking a leave of absence last year and hoping to return this fall. Always thinking of what was best for our students, she decided not to return for the start of this regular school year on a regular basis, and she resigned her position and was asked to be placed on the substitute list. Debbie and her husband Brian are longtime residents of Stowe. They have 2 children who attended West Pottsgrove Elementary and who graduated from Pottsgrove. Our thoughts are with the Scott family at this difficult time, and we must say that Debbie will be sorely missed. So thank you. Also, I would like to just make note that Pottsgrove High School, as was released last week by our local news agencies and by us, from receiving the Bronze Award from the U.S. News and World Report. We're very proud of this ranking that puts us in the top 30% in the country. It's a standard that everybody's measured by, and we feel that to be in that is an outstanding accomplishment that filters really down in our K-5 schools, our middle schools, and obviously at the high school. And we look forward to future excellence based on our last year's school performance profile, our increased AP selections, more STEM courses, and also the implementation of digital learning environment and more college and career opportunities for our students. So this is one of those examples of a true community effort that has put us on a newsworthy note, not only locally, but across the country. I would also like to take just 1 minute and thank our students and our staff and all of our administrators for a great start to a school year. Our professional development days that took place at the end of August were truly ones that invigorated and exhilarated our teachers and set the tone for the course of the year. Not only did we work on curriculum, but we had time to work in grade level groups. We also had time to collaborate with teams, and our high school staff had an opportunity to work across departments. This time, really, as I got to venture out the first day of school, when I got out to all the schools, I saw a sense of community. I saw a sense that teachers were organized. The kids were in their places. In fact, I even went to several schools, and I really had to ask where are the kids? Like, it was so quiet, so organized, and the detail, the pay attention to detail was so, not unique to schools, but, for the first day of school is definitely unique. And I was very proud of our staff and our administrators and our teachers. So we look forward to continuing that as we go out and work our way into the classrooms and continue to see that type of growth in our school community. So thank you.
I don't see any cards, but do we have anybody who wishes to give public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to executive session announcements. The board held a brief executive session for negotiations last Tuesday. What was last Tuesday's date?
Last Tuesday's date, sir, 6th.
The 6th of September, and we also had a informational workshop with the superintendent following the executive session. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion well, I'll make a motion to combine the approval of the minutes. Is there any comments or questions about the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. 7-0 and an abstention. And then moving on to Mrs. Grimm.
I know, right? I move that we accept the high school accounts, middle school accounts, and cafeteria accounts as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
I move that we approve the payment of invoices in the amount of $6,323,630.13 for August 2016 as presented.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
I move that we approve the treasurer's report for August 2016 as presented and file it for audit.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to the report of the superintendent.
Once again, good evening, and I'd like to introduce our student board reps. I had an opportunity to meet with Maya and Mason a week or so ago, and I know they had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Dorenzo about the upcoming year. And I know that one of the things that we talked about was giving them the ability to reach out to the students at all levels, K-12, and to really dive into the information that would be needed at this table, and that could better serve not only the community but the students at hand. So please feel free.
Hi, everyone. I just want to thank you for this opportunity in the first place. I want to talk about what my first impressions were and what the students' first impressions were when we first came into this building for the first day of school. Overall, I thought it was a great transition for the first day of school. I thought the construction really did look good. Everyone I know was excited about the lab tables that they had. That was something new. I had the opportunity to actually interview a couple people about their feedback, what we were doing well, what we could improve on, and some things that I think we could definitely address during this year is the dress code policy, the effectiveness of the cell phone policy that we just implemented, school safety in general, and whether participation should be a grade, whether teachers should be allowed to do that. That's just a couple of feedback that I got through the students this past week, and I plan to get a ton of feedback in this upcoming year altogether. And I'm just really excited to be the voice for students K through 12. Though I'm mainly in the high school, I'll get the opportunity to go to different schools and get all perspectives, and so we can truly be informed about the issues and make decisions on that. So thank you so much.
All right. I'm Mason. I'm the other school board representative for the students. I'm very excited to work with all of you. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to do this. It's not a dream come true, but pretty much. So, I'm just so excited to go to these different schools, meet and greet, talk to the different students, teachers, and everyone in between. It's going to be really interesting for me, considering that I never went to any other school but the high school. I'm really ready to learn, hear people's concerns, and hopefully bring them to your attention and address them in a good, effective way. So, yeah.
Maya, I just wanted to say I'm glad to hear that the dress code was on your agenda. It's been buzzing on social media recently, as I'm sure you know, and it's only been a couple of years since we took a look at it the last time, but I definitely think that it's worth taking another look, and if appropriate, bringing your feedback back to us for consideration. You know, applaud those efforts. I think it's necessary that, based on the feedback we've gotten from some members of the community, that we strive especially to make our dress code gender neutral. So, thanks.
Okay, moving on to action items and personnel. The district recommends the approval and the leave of absences as submitted.
What did that take us up to? It's just the first,
9. Yeah, 9.1.
Move to combine all personnel. Got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Mr. Rabinowitz, are you including the miscellaneous supplemental as well in your personnel, all of 9? Just want to make sure. Yes? Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving on to number 10, action items for business. The district recommends the approval and sponsorship agreement renewal of Meshach Physical Therapy for the 16-17 school year as presented.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
The district recommends the approval of agreement with CBiz for the ACA checkpoint software for the 16 and 17 school year in the amount of $2,450.
Can I get a motion? Motion? Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
2 questions. Is this the same cost as last year? And I'm presuming it's budgeted for?
Yes and yes.
You stole my question. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Confidential settlement agreement, we're asking for approval of a confidential settlement agreement for 1 student.
Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Tuition agreements for the Vanguard School. The district is recommending the approval of tuition agreements for 2 students to attend the Vanguard School in the amount of $54,380.
Motion, can I get a second?
Second.
You win, Mr. Alexander. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
Yes. I'll be voting yes, as I believe continuation for the students is important. But I'd like to know how this compares, how their cost compares to other schools that offer similar programs. I don't know if
We can look into that for you, get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
And I also have a question, and I don't think it's one you're going to be able to answer either, but it's not the first time I've seen 5% increases from some of these schools. It seems like we really have no recourse when these institutions decide to raise their rates, and you know, I'm sure that their decision to raise their costs are legitimate. I'm not questioning it, but you know, I'm asking again whether we do have any leverage in these situations, or we just have to say okay when they raise rates 5.4% when we have near 0% inflation. So that's more of a comment, I guess, than a
Yeah.
question, but.
Yep.
If I can add, that tags on to what I was thinking, and the second part of my question was going to be, or will be, next month for Kate is, if there's other programs that offer similar services, is it beneficial to sit down and have a conversation with them in regards to future placements? We don't want to pull a student that's been there
Right.
successfully, but for future placements.
Yeah, just a comment. In the short time that I've worked, with Kate as well as Kyle, Dr. Cantor, I feel that's something we do review on a regular basis, and we will continue to do that. And just regarding your comment, Mr. Rabinowitz, sometimes that is the only alternative, the only placement that we do have for these particular students. But I have witnessed the Pupil Services Department doing due diligence, throughout my tenure here when it comes to getting the best price and the best service for our students. So I will specifically ask her those questions that you asked, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Thanks for keeping me on track, Bill.
Our next is 10.5, construction invoices. We are asking for approval of a payment of construction invoices for the Pottsgrove High School renovation project as presented.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, that leads us to number 11, our committee items, and we did have a Operations and Facilities Committee meeting tonight. Mr. Lindgren, please report on our evening. Thank you.
In our Facilities Committee meeting tonight, basically, we talked about the completion of a significant number of work tickets that was part of the summer work. A really exceptional job by the facilities group, maintenance facilities group, so our thanks to Mr. Cardwell and his team on getting all of that done. In terms of the capital work, several of the projects that we had outlined for work for this year were completed, to include the replacement of the wet deck in the cooling tower, as well as the paving at the middle school and west. One of the projects that is not complete at the moment is the work on the roofing. They're still working on getting all of that sorted in terms of what they're going to do with a couple of changes to the scope, or clarifications to the scope, if you will, but the bids did come in well, and we're proceeding along there. What was the last one that we didn't get done? No, just in terms of the capital projects. Oh, the investigation that we had talked about for the structural and also for the electrical work that we had talked about. Those have been kind of shunted down. They've moved right. So those contracts have not been issued yet. He's going to be working on writing up the scope of work for those and getting proposals. So that work has not been started or completed at this time. Improvements to the high school rain garden. Basically, we talked about that a little bit. It's a voluntary bit of work that we're going to do to improve the rain garden at the front of the building, and between one of the science teachers and Montgomery County Soil Conservation District has offered to give us some free advice and some help, basically doing some testing of the soils to see what the infiltration rates are and what would work best in terms of making that rain garden work and effective. They also let us know that there was a grant available from 3M for about, I think, $1,000 towards the construction cost of whatever we might do. So we're going to investigate that a little bit. Certainly we're going to enter into a non-binding agreement with the Conservation District to allow them to come on site and take their soil samples and do the testing that they need to give us both the permeability, the infiltration rates, as well as some planting guidelines in terms of what plants would work and what function well in that sort of environment. If we were to do some additional design, or if depending on what the 3M contract is, we might enter into something else a little bit beyond that to dig something up, make something work, but we'll wait to see what that does. In terms of the agreement with 3M or applying for the grant, the committee asked for a copy of the agreement so we can review that before we enter into any sort of agreement. We didn't want to be tied to have to use that $1,000 in a certain way. We just wanted to see what it was a little bit, so we're going to do that. On the transportation contract, That's still under review in terms of what they wanted. The transportation company has indicated that over the years they have had a number of additional bits of work. They have basically 2 people that work for the district in terms of doing the routing and all of the administrative work associated with getting our students picked up, delivered to here, and then taken home again at the end of the day. So all of the routing, all of the fix-ups with having to deal with anything that happens during the day. This bus is broken, we have to replace it with this bus. This driver called in sick, we have to get another driver. Anything happens, little Johnny wasn't at the bus stop on time, or somebody wasn't there to pick him up. What do we do with little Johnny now? All of those things are handled by the administrative efforts of CMD. Over the past couple of years, we've held them to a minimum rate of growth in terms of year-on-year increases. So they've asked us to consider an increase for next year. We're still in discussions on that. Initially, the committee is looking at about the 2.5 base increase plus perhaps another 2.5 increase for a 5% total increase on the portion of the transportation contract dealing with administrative costs only. So the base number that we're talking about is 124,000. So plus 5% on top of that, which is what, 25? Yeah. So we're not talking about a lot of money. But we'd like to recognize the fact that during the years when we had very lean years, that they helped us and they kept to that minimum increase. We'd like to, recognize that and reward them a little bit. So we're going to talk about that a little bit further next month. But our initial recommendation is the 2.5 base plus about a 2.5 increase for a total of 5% increase for next year. The last item that we talked about was an additional ADA van. Last summer, not this past summer, but the summer before, one of our wheelchair-capable vans was in an accident. In fact, it was totaled. We did get insurance money for that accident, and we had budgeted to replace that in last year's budget, but the state budget was never approved, so that never happened. It just never happened. So what we've got is the money to replace that. In addition, when we budgeted for this year, for 16-17, we had a certain amount of money in to buy buses. That bid came in significantly lower than we expected. So altogether, we're looking at about $30,000 between the insurance settlement and the savings on the bus. In looking at it, we're looking at either a 1 wheelchair capacity or a 2 wheelchair capacity. The range of estimates right now is between $50,000 and $65,000, yeah? $50,000 and $65,000. So what that would mean is, if I know Mr. Nestor, we're going to be looking at the 2 wheelchair bus at a cost of about $65,000, which means we would have to put an additional $35,000 towards that additional ADA van. Right now, because that demand that, just because there was an accident didn't mean we got less demand, we have been leasing a vehicle to serve that need from CMD. So basically what we would do is we would add the $35,000 and we would save the cost of the lease, on the remainder of the lease. So all of that all of that thrown together, we, the committee, are recommending that we move forward with the purchase of an ADA van with 1 or 2 at the discretion of the administration.
Right now, we're just simply looking for authorization to bid because it is a bid threshold item. So we can bid both ways, come back and have discussion prior. You're not committing to buying anything at this point.
Are you looking for us to do this tonight?
And authorization to bid does not compel us to do anything with it.
I know.
We can go ahead and bid and then not award. So I guess my motion would be then, yes, I'm making a motion that we go out to bid for an additional ADA van to replace the one that was destroyed.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. First, are there any comments or questions from the board? Yeah, I'm going to. Hearing none, is there any comment from the audience since this was not on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to go out to bid carries 8-0. Bob, I had a question. Maybe you answered it. when I was distracted. What is the status of School Lane and the paving that's supposed to go on from that? Does anybody
We
know?
didn't discuss that. That was more tied with the construction contract. That wasn't a specific summer project or capital project. So we did actually talk about that tonight. Obviously, you can look out there and see it's not done.
Yes.
So if your question is when are we planning on doing it, I'll have to defer to the administration.
Okay. Does anybody know?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Nestor, and he's going to defer to Mr. Cardwell.
Almost took out my tire the other day, so that's why I'm asking. It's very selfish of me.
We reached out to another vendor to assess School Lane and present us with a proposal, which was turned in, finalizing the proposal because it went beyond just School Lane, probably maybe about 13 to 14 different other issues with our macadam surface and the sidewalks that are there. So I'm just going through, so when I present it to the committee, that I have the financial part broken out properly, aligned with the different categories that have been evaluated. School lane, sidewalk, macadam surface in the south lot, and the lot along the tennis court.
Okay, for some reason I thought that we had already approved the work on School Lane, so my bad.
No, we got approval from the board to go out to bid to get additional cost to look at it. And like I said, that came in as well as from our last meeting in June. We added some other things to be looked at when we decided to terminate the alternative paving part of the construction of the school. Thank you.
Moving on.
Okay, moving on to number 12, new business. Ms. Cherico, candidate?
Yes. We have to submit our votes for the PSBA elections, and as I was looking over the candidates, it's really quite simple because really everybody is kind of running unopposed. So unless anybody has any reason that they want to, or they think we should abstain from anybody that is listed on the slate, I would like to make a motion that I'll just go ahead and vote for everybody that's listed, and we'll be good to go. So that, okay, good.
Have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Any other new business?
I had one thing that last night we had the JOC meeting at the Western Center, and there was some information I wanted to report back. We had discussed about providing transportation for the kids to go to the Western Center for the week we weren't open, that the Western Center was. So I think probably all of us received an email or two, and I know the whole board received emails, and I had some community conversations, but I had just wondered how worth it that was, or not how worth it was, because I think it's worth it for even one kid to get to school if he wants to go or she wants to go, but what the participation rate was, and I was pleasantly surprised to find out that they said it was very high, higher than they really would have thought. So Rob Wennick, the principal, sent me some numbers today, and for the AM session, there was about 56% of the Pottsgrove kids went to school that week. And for the PM session, which is the older kids, it started out at about 55 and then petered off to about 40 towards the end of the week, but still averaged almost 50% for the week. So I just thought that was maybe some information that'd be valuable to everybody here to know that it wasn't just the few that sent the email. We had a good half of those students who chose to go back to school a week early, in essence, and come in, provide their own transportation to get to school, get the bus over to the Western Center. So I thought that was a pretty good turnout and definitely worth letting everybody know we absolutely did the right thing.
Thanks, Matt. That's great. That was something that that it just seemed right that we should do that, and hopefully next year we won't have to, since we're done with construction and we'll start regular time. I don't believe in jinxes. Anybody else have anything? Mr. Parker, I see your light on. No?
Was I? A couple things. First, in regards to data review, I was surprised that wasn't on the agenda tonight. Want to see if there's a plan for that to be presented to the community and discussed as a board. I do understand I wasn't able to make the ECRA meeting, but I understand it was discussed there, at least to some degree, if not in full. But it seems to me it should be something that the public is involved in the discussion.
Yes, Mr. Parker, one of the things that we wanted to do, if you remember, was we wanted to get the teacher input. We had an opportunity to have the administrative input. During that first week of in-service, the teachers got together along with their administrations to come up with the strengths, their areas of concern, and then how we're going to follow through with those particular areas of concern. That data collection has taken place this week in curriculum and instruction. Mr. Voris is leading that charge. The principals are reporting out to him. And we are going to take the first preliminary round to the curriculum committee next week. So that'll be our first share out with that particular group, with the data from both administration and our teachers. And then from there, we would proceed from there. And if the recommendation of the committee is to take it, obviously, we'd be glad to move it forward to the public.
Good, thank you. My second, unless somebody else wants to jump in before I go to my second, okay. Completely different. Not looking for a motion tonight, but I would request that we put it on the agenda for discussion for next month in regards to games on computers, games on school-issued computers. This is an ongoing concern of mine personally, and I believe of some in the community. In regards to taxpayer funding, should we use taxpayer funds? Should they be used for anything but education? I think we need to look at what we encourage the kids to do in regards to reading, in regards to getting out to exercise, and are we being almost, I don't want to use the word hypocritical, it's kind of strong, but sometimes they can be used to control behavior. Is that the appropriate thing to do with the computer, or should we be teaching self-discipline, how to socialize, encouraging them, again, to read, that kind of thing. So I'm just throwing this out there now, so I mean, sure, I'm not, if anybody wants to comment, but if we could have time to think over the next month and then address it next month, and if we want to vote then or not, whatever.
I think this would probably be appropriate to bring up through the policy committee as a starting point. You sit on the committee, and it's certainly a valid question, worthy of not just discussion, I would say, but maybe there's some research out there that the administration can bring to us to help guide us through the question. I'm sure there'll be members of the community on both sides of the question, as there have been on a lot of stuff lately. So I think we should consider it very carefully. But your concern is noted, and let's just get it on the agenda for policy.
Yeah, and I also think not only policy, but probably curriculum and instruction as well, and technology. I mean, I think it crosses over a couple different groups. So I mean, we can start with policy if that's the recommendation, and work from there, and then maybe it's something we would then move to curriculum as well, because obviously there's the curriculum piece and the technology piece to that process as well. So the recommendation is to start with policy.
Maybe the other way.
That's why, yeah. I was just, I agree. I think that the curriculum now our curriculum instruction preliminary agenda is pretty large. But we could, if the board deems this a priority, then maybe we can just shuffle the agenda around and push something off Not that we want to push anything off, obviously, but Mr. Lovick, maybe you want to comment on
I was
that.
going to say, I mean, my opinion, when you sent, you guys had sent the agenda over, I'd rather see everything left on there and try to plow through it. I mean, it gets to the point where we're all sort of, getting slap happy and everything, then we stop. But I mean, at least try to go through those things that are going to be on there and go as far as we can, because there's a lot of stuff there and just keep being pushed back and pushed back. So I'd rather see it added on and we just try to figure it out. I mean, sorry to say, but if any of those things on the agenda, that information you can get to us ahead of time to save on, like, instead of having to do a demonstration for a few minutes that we can read on our own, if it buys us a few minutes here and there, just a thought.
Agreed. I think, Daniel and I have had the opportunity to meet, and we're going to meet again, on that agenda. And I think that what we can do is look at streamlining the information, getting it to you up front so that, we can, make the best decisions in our allotted time.
Well, I think the worst case scenario then is that this gets pushed to the next curriculum meeting, which meets every 6 weeks. And while I understand your concern about it, since we've started the year with the current situation, I'm not sure that 6 weeks will matter that much. But, are you okay with that, Mr. Parker?
Mr. Wegman, do you have any thoughts? Is it going to be an issue? What are we doing currently? If you don't mind me, I'm putting you on the spot, but
It's a non-issue. Here's why. When we redeployed the iPads, they are in effect locked out of the app store, so they only have the applications that we populate in our portal. That has caused great consternation among some students and some attempts to try to circumvent it, as you might expect. But thus far, we're holding to that, and in a couple of instances where students made an attempt to circumvent, we were advised and picked up on it, and it was handled. I think the question we want to, and laptops, as the students here can attest, again, they are restricted to the software that is in the portal. They can't go out and install something. They can't put anything on the computer that has an installer built into it. So again, I'm going to go before the 9th grade class this Thursday and explain that because that was one of the first questions that came up. I think going forward, the question will be, and we talked about this, the question will be if we were to meet with a group of students and with a group of teachers and agreed upon some specific education-oriented games that may or may not be directly tied to curriculum, because there is, gamification of education is real, and simulations that are now digital, they are part of the educational system, delivery system of instruction. So I think what we would want to discuss is that an appropriate thing for us to do, to move forward and take a look at a folder that would be specifically for students that would be vetted, and we would have to develop the criteria for vetting those games. And with our new management system and some improvements in Apple's iOS, we have better control of that. So we don't have to physically grab a computer if the kid is using it. It's just it's a request from the administration, and it disappears from that student's iPad. Or do we just continue down the path that we're currently on, taking the line that the technology has afforded us to take? I think that's the question that I think really the curriculum and technology committee should take a look at, and then if there are policy implications that come out of that recommendation, then policy. But I think the policy works pretty much in support of whatever decisions the curriculum and instruction committee and ultimately the curriculum and technology committee and ultimately the board makes in that regard. Thank you.
I have one more item if we're done with that, and then I'll be done. There was a comment made earlier from a board member, and I was paying attention, but I think it was sounding in regards to speaking for the board, and I am not stating a disagreement. It's terminology I'm not familiar with in our discussions or in our policy. But in regards to the comment about gender-neutral clothing, if that is what our policy states, then I certainly support and agree with that. But if it's an issue that hasn't been discussed, I would suggest and request and recommend that until discussed as a board, that we state those opinions as individual opinions versus the board's stance on the issue. Again, not agreeing or disagreeing, just new terminology for me that I'm not personally familiar with in regards to the district.
Well, I appreciate your comment. I didn't intend to state it as a directive from the board, but as an opinion not just expressed by myself, which I do agree with, but from many members of the community, particularly the parents of female students that feel that our current policy is discriminatory towards them, whether or not that is accurate or not. So all I was suggesting is that we look at that and consider the question. And I don't see a particular issue with going through the current policy and seeing what the students think. And since it was raised by the community, I raised it here. Okay?
And I do agree with reviewing the policy. Thank you.
Just to kind of piggyback on that, is this something that maybe our student reps could look into with our students? They're going to? Cool.
The only thing I'd like to, just for clarification, we would like to start with our student reps before that gets to policy, and then, okay, I just want to make sure that sequentially you'll start with the students, okay? Then we can chat more as you move forward with that, so thank you.
Is there anybody else?
On a whole different note, I would like to announce on Saturday, September 26th, the boys soccer team will be hosting the Helping Friends, our annual match against Springfield Delco, and every year we switch back and forth. This started in 2009 when I was diagnosed with cancer and the kids wanted to give back. So what we did is we established this friendly match, and all the proceeds go to down at Phoenixville Hospital, which is now part of Jefferson Hospital, to the Patient Care Fund. So the Patient Care Fund is basically the main reason I picked this. It goes for any patient, any cancer, whatever they need. Whether it's groceries, whether it's taxi services, whether it's wigs, whatever their needs are, it's just something that my oncologist had started this fund, and I'm so proud of our boys and our coaches because we have been able since 2009 establish an account with the pharmacy across the street. And no questions asked, if there's any medications that are just not covered, they can go over and just go get the medication and it's paid for. So our goal every year is $1,000, and we're happy with any donations. It's all volunteers that come out. And like I said, this year we're going to host it at home, and we're going to be on the turf field. It's going to be a little different, but I would love everybody to come out and support the team because this is a really good cause for a good reason. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Saturday. It's actually next Saturday, the 24th, and I believe the match starts at 11 o'clock. I don't know where JVs will be. They might be playing the same time as the varsity, but you know, if you have an hour and a half, that's all it takes to come out and support them. So, and it's dear to my heart.
Thank you, Mrs. Grimm. Certainly seems like a worthy cause and a worthy recipient. And the goal is $1,000. Okay.
And actually, just to piggyback on that, I almost forgot. Coach Pennypacker and his Falcon Club, they also donate. So that's sometimes if we only get 500, and I'll personally give some money because I've seen those patients that walk through those doors. And it's just a beautiful thing to give back. No questions asked, anything to help these families. But they also donated last year. And what we do at the end of the year, we'll let the soccer team coaches and the football coaches come up with who they want to go down with me at the Cancer Center. So we take the boys down there and we give them a little tour, and they get a whole different experience on it. And it's a win-win. So like I said, it's going to be Saturday the 24th. I believe the first match is at 11 o'clock.
Any other new business? Mr. Nestor?
Just want to give you all the good news that the 2017-18 budget cycle started last week. Pennsylvania announced its Act 1 index for the upcoming school year at 2.5%, the base index. They haven't released what the enhanced index will be for us lower income schools, but it's typically 0.5 to 0.6 beyond that. So
Refresh my memory, what was it last year?
it was 2.4 was the index last year. It's 2.5 this year.
Thank you.
So our limit was 3.1 last year. It'll probably be 3.2 this year.
Okay. I don't think it's changed, no. Anybody else? Where are we? No answers to previous questions. Is there anybody else that missed the opportunity to give public comment? All right, then in that case, meeting adjourned.